Welcome to the Bounty Zero X podcast. I'm your host, Angelo Adam, founder and CEO of Bounty Zero X. Bounty Zero X is a decentralized bounty hunting network powered by the BNTY token. Today is August 6th, 2018, and my guest on the show is Thuc Vu. Thuc is the CEO of Cambria, and Cambria is an open innovation platform which enables and incentivizes collaboration in research and development, manufacturing, and commercialization of AI and robotic applications in the consumer space. Thuc is a serial entrepreneur with multiple company acquisitions, the last one by Google. He has deep expertise in game theory, tournament design, and multi-agent systems. He earned his PhD from Stanford University and a Bachelor of Science from Carnegie Mellon, both in computer science. And Dr. Thuc is a social entrepreneur in Vietnam, and he's also involved in several community projects. So welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having us. Very excited to be here.
So Cambria is a robotics company, and there's previously Omni Labs, which was founded in 2015. So you've been in the robotics space for quite a while. So tell me what initially piqued your interest about this ecosystem and in general, the robotics landscape?
Yeah, sure. So Cambria is actually a very, very unique project in which we already have existing robotics product that has been sold in the market. You know, we have like several hundreds robots deployed worldwide in many different use cases. And so we started Omni Labs in 2015. And along the way, as we develop our product and selling them in the market, we got a lot of companies, big companies, who reach out and ask us to customize robots for their own use cases. You know, like they have some ideas and they want to develop some robotic technology, but they know that even when they put in a lot of money and resources in-house, it's going to take them a long time and they might not get any good result. And so they reached out and asked us, and we said, why not, right? And so that's where the initial idea for Cambria started. And so that's where we want to build sort of like a marketplace for people to develop new technologies and, you know, collaborate so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel, but also allow people to commercialize the technology that's coming out of the platform. And so kind of like a multiple size for the ecosystem.
So you identify a couple problems which are unique to robotics development and which, as you mentioned, some of the companies that you were approached by approached you and mentioned that they'd like you to develop these technologies. But this is a unique area because it poses some difficulties that aren't necessarily applicable in other contexts. So you guys mentioned that some of them are lack of good interfaces and abstraction layers for a software, electrical, and mechanical system, lack of tools, semantics, and methods to share parts of design in distributed fashion, and over like creating the same thing multiple times. So, and reusability of code. So it seems like what you're developing is like a framework to make this a more modular and scalable solution so it can be developed more quickly and become more efficient.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's actually it's not only applicable in the AI and robotic vertical, but we develop Cambria as a general decentralized protocols that allow other people to build, you know, verticals such as biotechnology, space technology, or like self-driving car as well. And so frontier technology, you know, in a sense, where it's actually very challenging and require deep expertise in many different areas and not much of a sharing collaboration in the area yet. And so that's where, you know, Cambria will shine.
Yeah, so it is siloed and there are individual companies working and racing to develop these protocols. And is there like a risk of like intellectual property ownership and distrustfulness amongst these competing companies who are investing, rightfully so, a lot of money to develop these methods, these tools and methods, and then owning the IP rights over them?
Yeah, that's a correct question. And we spend a lot of time thinking about it, right? So yes, you're absolutely right that these companies, they will have to invest money or capital to develop the technology. But the cool thing is, Cambria as a whole, we design different ways to protect the IP for them as well. So the technology is open for everyone to do research on, and so that we can cut down the time and cost to develop new technology. But any other company who wants to use the technology for commercial purposes, they have to pay a licensing fee. And one of the protocol that we have is proof of violation. And we make sure that the community as a whole will protect this IP agreement, so that, like these companies, after they develop their technology on Cambria, they will get additional stream of revenue, right, when other people using that technology. And in a sense, this is a really good thing because it saves people from reinventing the wheel, like I mentioned. It can really cut down the cost and time. But second, it creates like a new kind of like additional revenue stream, and also the artifacts, right, of all this development work. A lot of time for startups company, for example, they develop something really cool, and if they cannot get a good product market fit, they fail, and everything is lost forever, right? Now, if they put it on Cambria, in a sense, they will continue to get a share of the revenue stream of the platform. And so that's a huge advantage for this company.
So what is proof of violation? How does that work?
Yeah, so for proof of violation, it allows anyone to upload the evidence that some company is violating the licensing agreement. And they will have to stake the token. And then they can get the community to also stake their token for the case. Once the amount of token reach certain threshold, right? So that's kind of like enough of the attention from the community. We'll send a legal team after the case, and we'll take legal action against the company who violating the agreement. And whatever the proceed that we win from the lawsuit will then get shared between the original poster and other makers of the case. So this is a great way to incentivize people to protect together the IP that on Cambria.
So I want to jump to a different topic. So you founded previously Omni Labs in 2015, and you guys built a number of robots and sold them. And tell me the story behind the founding of Omni Labs and the lessons you learned from that experience. Was that your first introduction into the robotics space?
Yeah, so Omni Lab is our first company, or my first company in the robotics space. But I have founded two companies before. They both got acquired, including one by Google. And so I'm not a stranger to kind of like the startup world. And then I also did a lot of research and business in AI before. So my first company was using AI to analyze social interactions and relationships of user on social networks and try to understand their relationship. And so a lot of we apply a lot of cool AI technology there. And so those experience carry very well to Omni Lab in terms of product development, in terms of business, in terms of pushing for getting the product out as soon as possible in front of user, getting feedback, iterate, and all that.
And your founders at Omni Labs, are they the same people and founders you worked with at the prior companies?
No, so I worked with Jared back at undergrad at Carnegie Mellon. So we were roommates, and we did a lot of research project together. So we worked along very well. That's how we knew each other, and we keep in touch. And when we got together in 2015, we started to brainstorm many different paths or technology that we can work on. And so one of the really exciting thing about consumer robotics is that the space is still relatively new, and we believe we can make a huge impact in terms of improving the quality of life for our user. Instead of like industrial or manufacturing, the robots kind of like take away job. But once it's in the consumer space, we can really provide services directly to our user and help with various tasks, right? So for example, senior care, for example, like nursing, services in the hospital, things like that. And so that's why, we got really excited and decided to pursue this space.
How long was the time period from the time that you guys, were brainstorming together and decided to really go ahead into the idea and then to get ramped up and then deliver the first consumer product?
Yeah, so it actually took us about 6 months, a lot of back and forth, brainstorming about this idea and what we can do. And, very, very interesting. So when it comes to consumer space, right, we try to take a very refreshing approach. Instead of aiming for the holy grail, like a lot of other robotics company, like SoftBank with Pepper, that try to develop everything autonomous, high, kind of like expensive product. We want to take a step back and think of the value that we can provide to the user right away at much more affordable cost and much shorter time development time. And so that's where the idea of our first product, the Telepresence robot, came from. And that's something that communication is something that people use or need, all the time, right? And the value is very clear. We have connect the families with each other, especially with their seniors, the parents and grandparents. And so that's how we can get a lot of traction immediately with our product.
Tell me about the sales numbers for the telecommunications Telepresence robot that you guys delivered. Did you have pre-orders for that, or was it in advance?
Yeah, we had pre-orders. We did an Indiegogo campaign. We reached our target within 4 days, and then just continue to scale our production right now to meet the demand. We actually have more orders than we can make the robot. So
yeah, it sounds like Tesla. They have more orders than they can deliver cars.
Yeah, yes, really good problem to have.
So you guys, how many have you delivered?
We have delivered about more than 400 robots already.
That's great. And so you have 400 deliveries, and were those all of the pre-orders that you guys sold?
No, so we have about 200 pre-order, and so after the pre-order we deliver them for the Indiegogo already. So we're done with that, and now we're just scaling our production and continue to take in more orders.
Nice. So then came Cambria. So at some point you guys decided, well, what's the next stage of this? So what was your thought process from deciding Omni Labs could then develop into something bigger, and what was the thought process that went into that?
Yeah, so Cambria, so my background I was doing PhD at Stanford, focusing on AI, but also game theory. And so that's what got me really interested in the whole blockchain space, because essentially allow the community to design, using game theory to design a new platform or system, right, that allow people to interact in certain way. And so we saw this as an opportunity for us to accelerate what we already did at Omni Labs, to build an ecosystem or a platform that allow people to collaborate and really push on new technology in terms of development, but also in terms of adoption, application of this technology in different area or markets. And so that's what got us really excited. And so we started to think more about what exactly the platform should do and what are the protocols and all that stuff, and continue to develop it. And so we decided so there's a really good synergy between Omni Labs and Cambria. And so we're going to develop both kind of along the way.
So with Cambria, is it you and are your co-founders at Cambria the same co-founders and the same team that you had also at Omni Lab?
Yeah, so we share the same founding team between Omni Labs and Cambria, but we're already building out additional team for Cambria, especially for development and community and all that. We have like a big developer team in Vietnam, and we start building the developer community through building our robotics lab, partnering with top university in the space, running hackathon, or kind of like a partner with open source project to bring them on board.
That's great. So you've been busy since you guys, so what was around the date that you guys first started talking about the potential for Cambria?
So we started to talk about Cambria beginning of last year, and it took us a long time to really iterate on the concept and protocol and all that. We really started in core towards the end of the year, and start to work on building out a platform.
And have you guys been getting investors on board? And what is your current investment roadmap? And where are you in that stage?
Yeah, so we have closed our private sale for Cambria, and we have several notable investors. Our lead investor is Hashed from Korea. The guys have been tremendously helpful and supportive to our project. So now we just can, go focusing on building out a platform. Probably going to do a pre-sale soon once we launch like a public beta version of the platform. So looking at, probably end of August, beginning of September. So coming up very soon.
Mm-hmm. And so is it public, or can you talk about how much you guys you raised in the private sale?
So our hard cap, we aiming at 19 million. And we don't publicize the private sale number yet, but it's safe to say that we get majority of the hard cap down already. So hopefully, the rest will come in quickly.
And for the private sale and the public sale, are you guys doing security token, or are you?
No, so these are so for the private sale before the platform launch, it's more like a SAFT. We go with Reg S. But, it is as a utility token. CAT is a utility token. So.
Okay, great. So you guys raised from a bunch of different VC firms and signed the SAFT agreements, and you guys got a great reception from them. And so you did the SAFT for your private sales, and you raised a certain amount. And then now you're also having the publics.
Yeah. And now we're just focusing on, building out a platform. We're thinking of more like a public pre-sale after we launch a platform, but still really depending on regulations and things like that. So we'll follow the regulation closely, just see, to make sure that it's safe for us and for our investor.
All right. So why don't we jump into a little bit about the Cambria platform? So there's a bounty program, or I wouldn't say a bounty program, but there's a bounty element to the platform. So bounties are used in the ecosystem, within the Cambria ecosystem. So what role do you guys have for bounties, and how are they being leveraged to make the ecosystem, for the incentives among the participants of the ecosystem?
Yeah, you can think of it as like the X Prize, right? Or the DARPA Grand Challenge. So these are like kind of like prizes that put out by the community, by the foundation, or by companies, big companies who need new technology, or a combination of all these three. We can all join force to set out the prize, which will incentivize team of developers around the world to work together and develop the technology that can satisfy the requirements, the criteria of the prize. Best technology will get incorporated onto the platform and then remain open, share with other people. And, the developers will win the prizes. They can choose to take the whole bounty, the whole amount, or partial of it. And that would translate to karma points for both sides, the people who put out the bounties as well as the developers. And these karma points, what it does is allow people to get a portion of the revenue stream when it comes into Cambria. So in a sense, you can think of it as like a tokenized technology, right? The IP on Cambria, in which, people with the karma points own part of the technology.
So will you be building relationship with manufacturers? And so we've been talking a little bit about like the software code base and the marketplace for developing the components relating to the software around the robotics. So will there be like a manufacturing component to this also?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's where, this is going to be really interesting on Cambria. We're going to provide design for hardware as well, including, and then also firmware, AI, software. So like a whole bunch of stuff, not just software. And Omni Lab is going to be one of the company that would lead the manufacturing alliance to help with these projects to do prototyping and production down the line. Because the way that we make our robots actually very, very interesting. We 3D print the parts and then assemble them all in-house in California. And so we can extend this to accommodate, new design or new prototypes that people come up with on Cambria.
So the manufacturing of the robots is all done in you guys' headquarters in California?
Yeah, exactly. In Silicon Valley.
So how does that work? Do you guys have 3D printers, and is that scalable, and or is that just for prototyping the designs?
So we actually have rows of 3D printers in our office, and yes, those it's definitely scalable. So we have polished the process so that we can really crank out the parts 24/7 using these 3D printers, and then design a way to assemble them all in house. And so this is quite interesting. We believe that that's a new way to go in the future for manufacturing, as the 3D printing technology getting better and better every day. Including new type of materials, for example, plastic mixed in with carbon fiber, or the multiple material nozzle, right, in which you can print kind of electric wiring together with the plastic parts. So imagine, you can print out the whole arm of a robot. That's huge. That's something that injection molding would be able to do.
And so how are your guys' in-house 3D printers going to be used as a component of the platform by users of the marketplace? Who are the parties involved in the marketplace? And can you take me through that flow of a user signs up and who are the user roles in the platform, and how they interact with
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are a couple of different type of user on the platform. So let me walk you through kind of a flow, right? Big company, they want to build technology. So they put out a bounties or the price on Cambria. All the token holders, as they see the potential of the project, they can chip in the tokens to grow the size of the prize. And then developers that working on the prize, when they need prototyping, they can tap into our alliance network of any of verified partners that sort of can produce these parts that design on Cambria. And then they will submit the prototype with the design and all that, and go through testing. Once they got accepted and got incorporated onto Cambria, any of the manufacturer in the alliance now can produce these products or the robots for the other parties, right? The companies who want to commercialize them, who want to sell robots that on Cambria. And so those are the way that different type of user can interact.
That's interesting. So you guys have the user role of the company who posts the bounty or who posts the job on the platform. Mm-hmm. And that would contain a list of the specs and the requirements that need to be met and the reward amount. And the reward amount would be payable in anything, or is it a specific token?
No, so the reward has to be in our token, in CAT. And then also the revenue, the licensing fee that coming in, would have to come in CAT as well.
Got it. So then the bounty is posted and deposited ahead of time in escrow. And so then the specs of the deliverables are added, and then it's opened up and it's available. So it's listed on the platform as an active bounty reward or an active job.
Exactly. Yeah. So once the developers submit their kind of entries, right, for these bounties, we'll have third-party expert to vet these entry points.
So the third-party experts vet the what are they vetting?
The submissions, the technology submission from the developers, to decide whether these are good submission, whether they satisfy the requirements, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I see. So That's great. That's a really interesting approach, and it seems like a really unique model because it could, let anyone participate and compete against each other. So for each bounty that's posted, is one winner chosen or are multiple different?
It's going to be multiple. Yeah, we think of it as like kind of like a tournament. So there's going to be multiple rounds, and then each round is going to be certain requirement, right? So let's say, in the very first round, it's going to be more like a design submission. And then the top 3 chosen winner then will get to move on to the next round, which is going to be prototyping. And then at the prototyping round would be then like maybe like production ready round or something like that. And so, yes, definitely going to be multiple round, not just one. Because, these technology is challenging, right, to develop. So it's going to be like one straight shot.
So there could be potentially like in the first round, 50 teams enter, they submit their work, and then the top 3 are chosen. So the top 3 submissions, do they win a reward at each round, or is it?
Yes, yeah. And these are actually up to the company who set out the bounties, right? We will help them to design like a good tournament. But, I think end of the day, they still have some leeway to decide how to proceed with the rounds and stuff like that, or the reward.
And the company itself chooses the winner of each round?
No, so it's going to be up to the expert so that we can avoid, some sort of a conflict of interest here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what, we have that same kind of similar issue on our platform is that we can't, there has to be some, input from the company posting the bounties in terms of setting out the requirements. But as you stated, yeah, there's also the issue of conflict of interest in deciding who wins and collecting the work and paying out accordingly. So there's all sorts of like considerations and so then to become this expert, a third party expert that can review the submissions, do you guys have like requirements? Is it open to anyone? Is there like a application process?
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to vet them in the beginning, and then it's going to be like kind of like voted by the community. Think of it as like a token curated registry. And so, these experts there will be like a list of experts that, got vetted and voted in by the community. And, they will get rated based on their performance in terms of, like the revenue of the platform and things like that.
Great. So they have the different rounds and then the winner is selected, the final design, and then it's put into production. The bounty is paid out. A fee is taken by the platform. And that's basically the whole process, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. Looking forward to seeing it. So what is the timeline here? So you're launching the beta in Q2 or Q1, Q2, or the launch of the platform in Q1, Q2 2019?
Yeah, so we want to launch an MVP, kind of like a barebone platform in August, end of August, early September. And then just get people to start using it, voting for different projects and things like that. And then, a more complete product, we're aiming for probably Q1 or Q2 of next year.
Tell me a little bit about the partners you guys are working with and the different verticals and how the token economics are involved in the ecosystem and the platform.
Yeah, so that's one thing really exciting about Cambria is that we have existing partners from all different kind of like space. Including big companies, including open source project, including universities. So a couple of different verticals that we've been aiming for. One is healthcare verticals. Like robots can help with senior cares or can be deployed in hospital to provide services. Some really big company that, for example, Topan in Japan, they already invested into us and, want to build a robot that can provide nursing services in Japan. And then in terms of, and another example is the kind of like we call it mobile aerial mobility vertical. It's a fancy word for flying cars. We're working with NTU from Singapore to design this vertical on Cambria as well. And then a couple of other interesting leads in terms of mobility for in the city and things like that, or biotech. These are the verticals that can be developed on Cambria. Very, very exciting. So I think, we continue to work with these partners to really carve out this space and pushing along with the technology development.
And how many different partners do you think that there will be, like, I guess, preferred providers who provide like manufacturing services or hardware development services? Or you guys are going to be, it will be open to any other like platform or like a manufacturer that wants to join the network and become part of the Alliance network? And what will that process look like?
Yep, exactly. So that the process is going to be, they will have to apply to join the Alliance through the foundation. We're going to have to vet them, to make sure that they can manufacture the products that specified by the Cambrian language, right? The coding language. And then they have to put out a bounty, not a bounty, like a bond, kind of, they have to stake, certain amount of tokens, to make sure that they will like fulfill their promises for the work and stuff like that. And so in a way, kind of like hold them accountable for providing service.
Yeah. And just the industry as a whole in the future, like the scope and potential revenue from this industry. I mean, you talked about a little about some of the applications that would be using this type of platform. So nursing services. Do you think there are any other areas that are going to be helpful where people will be able to use the platform in the future? And is it going to be like mainly companies or consumers, or how do you envision that?
Interesting. Yeah. So, definitely many different verticals and spaces, right? And so let's look at AI and robotics, right? For AI and robotics, the application is limitless. You can think of it as, at home doing cleaning, laundry, or, in the restaurant, washing dishes, serving food to the tables. In terms of school education, student can attend classes, or the robots can teach students certain skill sets. There's just so many different ways that we can go, or space that we can go into. And so we believe there's going to be $1 trillion market once we flesh out all different applications that we can do.
So what are some of the social impact that will potentially be derived from advancements in AI technologies for society as a whole? And what are some of the economic factors at play here? Because there are a lot of jobs that are being completed now. I mean, how can robotics play a role in this changing environment of being able to replace or help people who are currently working in their jobs?
Yeah. So we absolutely believe that AI and robotics will make a huge impact in society. And, we believe it's going to be a positive impact. So in terms of like improving productivity and improving the quality of life for our user. So we never think of robots as replacing jobs, but more like augmenting what humans are doing so that it can help save energy, make it less repetitive, make it less boring for the human. And so that's the approach that we want to take. And beyond that, Cambria can actually accelerate a lot of projects that develop technology that right now is underinvested. So for example, senior care, for example, waste management, right? Recycling plants or cleaning up the ocean. These are the things that robotic technology will make a huge impact to help us address these challenges. And so very excited to see the community would be able to get together and support the project along that line and making progress on that.
So if any of our listeners are interested in learning more about Cambria, where are the best and want to get involved and, become a developer and start earning some income by completing some of the bounties? Or if they have an application that they'd like to develop for their company, what would be the best way to go about learning more, getting involved, and hearing about the company?
Yeah, we definitely, we have, please check our website at cambria.io. We have a lot of information on there. And then join our Telegram group, Cambria Official, or send us an email anytime. We'll be more than happy to discuss how we can collaborate going forward.
Great. So my guest on the show today has been Thuc Vu, CEO of Cambria. And there'll be in the show notes below more information about how you can learn more about Cambria. So check the links. And it's great having you on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Looking forward to more collaboration. Yeah.
Great. All right. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bounty Zero X podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast below. Check out bountyzerox.io, the #1 bounty hunting platform where you can complete work and earn cryptocurrency. Please consult your professional financial investment and tax advisors before making any investment in initial coin offerings. Bounty Zero X does not provide investment or financial advice and does not endorse or recommend investment in any ICOs advertised on the Bounty Zero X podcast or website.